classroom management. Okay, let me put it in the presentation mode. So, online classroom management. This is a workshop under the professional development program in Bidar Mutawa School. And the presenter is myself, Iman Jibi. So why online learning? Online learning becomes essential during periods of disruption, like the recent events in the Gulf area, fog times. Sometimes it can be weather disruptions like the fog, the wind, if there are strong winds, there are sandstorms, there is heavy rain. So it is essential during these periods. So ensuring continuity of learning and providing students with consistent access to education in a safe and flexible environment. So students, they don't have to move from the place where they are located in, whether it's their house, it's a hotel, maybe they're in a totally different country and there are disruptions. So they don't have to go back to school to continue learning. Online learning, online tools provide us with tools to ensure that our students continue learning as safe as possible. Okay, so introduction now. So keeping students interested and helping them learn in an online classroom is very important. In ESL lessons and in all subject lessons, in math, in science, in physics, in social studies, in PE, whatever, teachers should use clear routines. This is valid for face-to-face or online classrooms. We need to use interactive tools and planned activities to get students to join in and talk. So basically, we need to grab their attention and make sure that we keep their attention on our lesson, on ourselves, so that our students will join in and talk. And in this presentation, I will share some useful tips for creating a positive and organized online learning space. So a few effective tips for running online ESL classes or any other subject classes. First, we need to focus on keeping students' interest. So we need to grab their attention and maintain that attention, maintain their focus on us, on our lesson, on the activities that they need to complete. We need to have a clear plan. We need to know exactly how we're going to start the lesson, how we're going to move smoothly from one activity to another one, and how are we going to test our students at the end with an exit ticket, for example. So we need to have a clear idea about the progression of our lesson. We also need to encourage communication. We need to encourage our students to communicate with us, to communicate with each other, so we can have a more interactive classroom. First, these are the things that we as teachers need to do. We need to have a strong online presence. So we need to keep the camera on, or at least at the beginning of the lesson. We need to open our cameras, make sure that we greet our students, ask them about their daily life. Maybe we don't need to get personal, but just to show interest in them, to show them that we are interested in them, in their lives, and we care for them. And also we need to use our students' names. So, for example, during the online lesson, I made sure that whenever a student would come into the class, I would greet them by their name. For example, I would say, "Good morning, Blind. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well." Okay. And we need to show enthusiasm because it's a bit difficult online because we're sitting in front of the computer. It feels like we're talking to ourselves and we're basically alone in the room. But still, we need to show enthusiasm to kind of infect our students with that enthusiasm, to get them also enthusiastic about the activities, to hype them up, because especially for the period 1 and 2, they're still kind of sleepy. So we need to show them enthusiasm so they can be enthusiastic with us and get involved with the activities. Our lessons need to be structured into short segments, 5 to 10 minutes. Nowadays with social media, students are used to very short videos, very short content, and that reduce their attention span. So we need to make sure that our activities are not too long, are not too complicated, just to keep them involved with the activities, because they can easily give up and just not, they can ignore your instruction or not want to answer you, and they would wait for the other students to answer and then just like copy the answer. So we can keep it short and sweet, 5 to 10 minutes maximum. And our lesson need, as I told you earlier, like we need to be clear on the progression of our lesson. So for example, we start with a warm-up. It can be a short video, it can be a questionnaire, polls, quizzes, um, any activity that you can use one of the online educational platforms in. And you can start with 1 task, 2 tasks, 3 tasks. Make sure that you give them the feedback, and at the end, a reflection, an exit ticket. So we need to have a clear sequence of activities in our lesson. We also need to make sure that our transitions are clear. So we are going from the warm-up into the first task. We need to show, we need these 2 tasks to be linked, like they are on the same unit, on the same theme. For example, a warm-up can be also checking their background knowledge, checking what they studied the previous lesson, if my new lesson is building on that lesson. So that shows that there is a clear transition between the warm-up, the tasks, the feedback, and reflection. Also, the transition clear if, for example, I'm starting with an easy activity, building up to medium difficult activity, not very difficult, and then to the most difficult activity or the most complicated one. So there is a transition. We are building on their knowledge. We keep on adding new information. Also, we need to have clear rules and routines in the classroom. We need to establish clear expectations for them. We tell them from the beginning that you need to open your cameras, your microphones, and make sure that you're participating. So during the online classes, I actually created this Microsoft sheet where I was taking what I was taking in their participation, if they were interacting online, if they opened the camera. So just a second, let me show you. Open it from here. So just a second. Open, yeah. So in our department, we have the student progress tracker. So for example, for the online lessons, so this is just for the projects. So we have different activities where they can get where they can have their results, where they can collect their marks. So for example, you can see here, for example, this class, they were not really opening the camera, so they didn't get really good marks. And so it was on 10, so 5 marks for opening their cameras and 5 marks for online interaction. So these are the students who interacted. So basically each day they will get 1 point if they are interacting and 1 point for opening the cameras. Other students, they were doing better with that. Okay, this is like the old version, not the final one. For example, these girls, they were very obedient, and they opened the cameras, they were interacting in the classroom, so they got their full marks. So you can see here, I showed them in the progress tracker, the marks that they got for interacting online and opening their cameras. Go back to the presentation. So once I established clear expectations for week 3 and 4, I had more students opening their cameras, more students participating, whether by opening up their mics and taking part in the activities, or sharing in the chat box, answering the questions in the chat box, by completing their Aleph lessons, by completing their LMS activities. So once I established these clear expectations, I got better results. I got better involvement in the classroom. We also need to create a class agreement. This is like the rules that we all need to abide by in our classroom. And of course, we need to be consistent with these rules. Once they break the rules, once they do not interact online, if they do not open the camera, they know what's the consequence for that. So if they don't open the camera, if they do not interact, they don't get those marks. And if they do not follow the class rules, like these ones here, so these are the class rules that I use with my students. If they do not respect these rules, they will be punished, either reporting them to their parents or giving them a warning. We all have different ways of dealing with our students, so we need to be consistent. And it's not enough to tell them that I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to give you marks if you don't open the camera, and then I give them the mark anyway. No, you have to be consistent. If you promise them something, you have to do it, whether it's a good or a bad thing for them. That consistency will help you to have better classroom management, either online or in our face-to-face classes. It works both ways. Now, for the students, how do we keep the students engaged? One of the ways is to use polls, quizzes, and chats. These are short activities that they can do very quickly, so they can use a poll, quizzes, or chat. I will show you in a second the polls, one of the polls that I used with my students, and I used it directly on Microsoft Teams. We can include games, and we make sure that they are frequently participating in class. So, for example, let me show you the polls that I used with my students. This one, okay. Yes, here. Let's go to activity. Okay, so this class. Yeah. So you can see here. Yeah, okay. So you see that here I share the and here I share this is the first slide that I put with all my lessons, and it's created a kind of routine because I share that with them every day, and I put it into the chat box. So here we have the date, the lesson number, the title of the lesson, the value of the month, the learning outcomes, but also the classroom rules. They are here. So it's a daily thing. Like every day, they need to be reminded or at least see these classroom rules. And so that's part of the consistency I was talking about. Okay, the quiz. So for example, for this lesson, I had this quiz with them. How do you prefer to learn, online, in a classroom, or both? This can be done in a few seconds. And these are their answers. So they answered quickly. So of course, they said that they prefer to learn both, sometimes face-to-face, other times online. And here you can see that we use the chat box to answer the questions, and the feedback. It was instant feedback using the reaction button here. It can be, as you can see here on the right, can be thumbs up, a heart, laughter, or a surprised one, a surprise smiley. So you choose. Usually we would use a thumbs up if the answer is correct. And yeah, and here also, yeah. And also, I was telling you that we can play games. Here we use the Wayground platform to play a game. It was an activity, and you can see here the class average, and here it's covered the names of the participants and the winners. So these are all different ways to keep our students engaged in the lesson. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay. Now, participation control. To manage the classroom, so we wouldn't have chaos in our online class. We can ask students to use the raise hand features. They are very intelligent, and they got it instantly. The students I had during the online lesson. Plus, it was not their first time taking part in classroom, in an online classroom. So you can ask them a question and ask them to raise their hands if they have the answer, so that not all of them speak at the same time. Or you can nominate students or manage speaking turns. To nominate students, either you have a list in front of you and make sure that to put a tick next to the student, to each student who participated, just to make sure that all students are taking part in the lesson, or you can use something like this. This is a wheel where you put the names of your students here. And you just click on the wheel to select the student you want to speak. So for example, here, the wheel chose Mona. Okay. This is wheelofnames.com. So you can just open it online and use this website. It's very easy. Just put the names, click on the wheel, select the student, click again to stop the wheel, and it will give you the name of the student. For example, now it's Sarah, right? Let's go back to our presentation. Okay, the breakout rooms. This is a very useful feature in Teams and in Zoom. I tried both platforms and it's there. So the breakout rooms would allow you to put your students into different rooms, into separate rooms where they can work in groups. You can assign the roles before they go into the breakout rooms. You can monitor the breakout rooms and you can set clear tasks and time. So you go to Teams here. You go here, you have this feature, rooms. You just go here, it shows the number of rooms you want to create. It depends. If you have 6 students, you can create 2 rooms and put each group in one room, and each group would have 3 members. You can give them their roles, a group leader, a speaker, a timekeeper, a note taker, okay? And you create the rooms, you click here, so you create the rooms, and then you assign your participants. It would show here if you have different students, you select the students and then you select the room you want to put them in, room 1, room 2, room 3. Save it and then open the rooms here. Once you assign all of your students, you open the rooms, but you don't just send them there. You can join them there to monitor the work. They just click on the 3 dots, you could join. You can join them there and to check on them to make sure that they're on the task. You can also guide them, see if they need your support. And then once you're done with them, you leave the room and you go to the different room, to the other room. And again, join the other students to provide guidance and monitor their work. You can also send them announcements, if you, like a short message, for example, like you have 5 minutes. You have 1 minute and then I'm closing the rooms. I'm closing the rooms now. So you use this feature to send them the announcements. It will get into all the rooms. But before you send them into the rooms, you make sure that they understand the task, they understand what they're supposed to do. And you give them the timing. You tell them, for example, you have 5 minutes, you need to complete the task after 5 minutes. And then the speaker in each group will report what you did in your group. Okay? And then you can send them into the breakout rooms. They can do their work and you can check on them, as I told you, with the feature of joining the room. Let's move to the next slide. So, as I told you, you visit the breakout rooms, you can give them immediate feedback, support them. Maybe they did not really understand the task, they need clarification, maybe they need your guidance. So you provide immediate feedback and you can redirect their behavior calmly, because sometimes they would take the opportunity to just chat, to gossip in the room, especially if you don't join them, if they know that you never join them. So maybe they will not be doing the task. Maybe the task will fall on one of the students, on the rest. Either they will gossip, chit chat, or they will turn off their mics and they wouldn't do anything. So just make sure that you visit them in their breakout rooms to make sure that they're doing the work. Use of technology. So on Teams, technology can be used also to manage the classroom. We can mute and unmute our students at will. If we want to mute them, we just mute them. If for any reason students, they don't know how to mute or unmute themselves, you can do that for them. Or maybe they're creating chaos, so you can mute them. You can ask them to use the chat for participation. Some of my students during the online lessons, they had a problem with their mic, so I used the chat box to communicate with them. They would tell me, Miss, my mic is broken. So I would type the instructions for them. They could listen, but still I could use also the chat box to communicate with them. Sometimes they also have a problem with audio, so we chat here and I direct them to do their tasks. And screen sharing and visuals, through the screen visuals, like we can grab their attentions. We can share our screen to show them the work here, to show them the Excel sheet where I showed you the progress tracker. So it's another tool like to grab their attention too. We also need to create a positive environment. So we can encourage participation by allowing them to make mistakes, by encouraging them to participate, by hyping them up, promoting respect also. So, for example, whenever they do any task, I would make sure that I thank them. I would use like positive language with them. I also would make sure that they are using respectful language when they're addressing each other. So that's all part of creating a positive environment. And all in all, it's just to build a classroom community. You can have fun with your students once you encourage their participation, you promote respect, you are enthusiastic, you make sure that they are enthusiastic also with the activities. So that builds a classroom community that is working together towards one final goal to make our online lessons successful. So at the end, I would just like to wrap up what I was talking about. So first, for a successful classroom management in the online context, we need to set clear expectations. As I told you, create the routines, make sure they understand the rules, and make sure that they understand that they need to open their cameras, their mics to communicate, to be active communicators, to be active during the online lessons, either with the mic or the chat box or the different activities. You assign them, take part in the games that we use to increase their motivation. We also need to make sure that we increase their engagement through creating a positive classroom, promoting respect, making sure that we give them reinforce their self-worth, their self-confidence, to make sure that that we give them positive feedback. We also need to use structured tasks. We need to have clear pattern for our lessons, so our students would know that first task would be warm up, then we will have practice activities. After that, some kind of a test or a more complicated activity, and at the end, an exit ticket. But basically, at the end, we need to maintain a positive environment for the students, because online classrooms, we mostly use them in times of disruption. So students are already anxious, they are already stressed. So we will try to keep them calm, to get them engaged into the activities and to basically learn. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. So hope it was helpful. And you can email me if you need any clarification, if you have any feedback. If anything you think is missing from this presentation, you are welcome to share with that, because this is my perspective. I'm just one of the teachers. I don't hold the knowledge, so I just wanted to shed light on these techniques, and they are just like the basics of online classroom management. I hope you enjoyed the workshop, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Please have a great day, and do not hesitate to communicate with me. As I told you, if something is lacking or if you need more clarifications. Thank you and have a good day.